From Glitch HQ on Riverside Avenue in Dateline, Minneapolis, this is Nice Games Club, the show where nice game devs talk gaming and game development.
I'm Martha McGarry, and I make nice games.
I'm Steve McGregor, and I make nice games.
And I'm Arthur Croy, I too make nice games. In this episode, your nice hosts bring to you a Nice Games Bulletin, where we discuss the latest news from the broader world of video games, or at least as latest as we are able. And so, if everyone's ready, let's start.
This is a special Nice Games Bulletin.
This is good. Now I don't need to find that sound effect. So we're doing something new. Stephen, why don't you explain it to our listeners?
Yes, we are bringing you the news, the latest happenings in video games.
As of today.
As of today being our time, not your time, which is like 2 weeks or whatever, calendar math, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, these are just like cool things we found on the internet or what have you that we really wanted to bring up and talk about.
Yeah, we're a game dev show, but we also talk a lot about what's happening in gaming. Yeah. But we've never really devoted an episode to doing that. Mm-hmm. And we got some stuff to say about news, and a lot of times it just blows past us. Yeah. But we're going to do one of these episodes like roughly once a month, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and we'll talk about the things in the last couple of weeks. So even though we're not going to be up to the minute timely, that's not really what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Stephen, get us started.
Yes. Let's start with the new releases. Mm-hmm. These are the releases that came out within the past couple of weeks or so. Actually, I think some of these are supposed to come out next week, our time, but they're already out your time.
Yeah, just a couple of notables from January and February that we wanted to maybe have more than a sentence to say about.
Right, exactly. So these aren't in any order, but Kingdom Hearts 3 finally came out. I don't play Kingdom Hearts. I'm sure it's good, probably.
It's very, very confusing. I've watched several like other outlets talk about like the plot.
Yeah.
And it required, in the video I was watching, string and time loops and possession. And
okay. Yeah. Yep.
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Plus Mickey Mouse and Goofy.
I'm sure people who love Kingdom Hearts are like tired of people going, "Oh, Kingdom Hearts."
Yeah.
But like, Kingdom Hearts. But I mean, I think it's worth mentioning just because it's a long running series. Mm-hmm. The last numbered title, you know, and then we can get into that.
Yeah.
Was like 10, 12, 15 years ago,
right,
long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And I read these great stories about people saying like, I bought a PS3 in anticipation of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, no.
Like back in 2008 or whatever.
Goodness.
And I'm just like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yes. Dang. Well, it's out now. Get it on your PS4.
But also, it's like, it's 3 in number only because it's like the 17th game or whatever. And all of the little spin-offs were like big games. Some were smaller. Yeah. But they all were a chapter in that story.
Some of them, literally all of them are relevant to the plot, which is really obnoxious because like there's mobile games, there's ones on the PlayStation Vita, so good luck with those. And like PSP ones, and there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I think if I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, I'm just role playing now.
Yep.
Like I'm kind of into the idea that it's a little bit of a little hard to sort of like. It's a little dark, like the normies don't understand.
Sure.
There's something kind of appealing about like the numbering system, like having that, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not quite secret knowledge, but like it's sort of, it's like a club membership. If someone knows which one came after which, you guys are friends now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And is there any game titles or entertainment things or anything that you feel that way about?
Oh,
I guess I kind of feel like a little bit about fighting games.
Yeah?
Yeah, because they're like terms and stuff. And when people bring them up, I'm like, oh, I like you. So, yeah, I guess I feel that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I can respect it.
Yeah.
When anyone brings up a humongous game, it's like, oh my god! Like Phil from the Game Jam, who did the art for the environment for our game. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Oh yeah, Pajama Sam." I'm like, "Right? Oh my god!"
Yeah, I feel that way a little bit about the Myst series.
Sure,
Uru specifically, because everyone played Myst, and most people played Riven, but not everyone played Uru. And that's where a lot of the lore from the series sort of got fleshed out. And so when people know a little bit about that, I feel like we have something in common.
Sure.
But also anyone who knows how a warp drive works, like I'm like, you're my pal now. So I have some sympathy for the Kingdom Hearts super fans because like nonsense trivia still has some value.
Yeah. You invested a lot into this thing, and so like it's nice to see it reciprocated, I guess, from other people.
Right. It has more a value to your life than just like how good the story is, which I hear is not great. Even from the diehard fans, they're like, yeah, this is dumb, but I sentenced myself to a lifetime of this back in 2002 or whatever, and here I am, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah. Well. Next game, Apex Legends came out recently.
Yeah, from where we're sitting, that dropped just a few days ago.
And it was like we announced it, and then it released it the next day or something.
Yeah, pretty much. It was something else. Have y'all played it yet?
Not yet.
No, it's a battle royale game, and it's based in the Titanfall universe. Although I suppose doesn't matter if you've played any of those games, so it's not really my jam.
Yeah.
But I did hear that it was the reason they may have surprise announced it is so that Fortnite couldn't copy its features. Because it's a battle royale game. That's it's very highly fraught genre right now. Yeah. Basically, people are looking to become. Fortnite is the League of Legends, and people are like, who's going to be the Dota, right? Because PUBG is popular still, but I think its audience has plateaued.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's for certain, but it feels that way.
I think it's declining at this point.
Oh, yeah?
I think so.
Well, I mean, Achievement Hunter guys just did a whole big, huge playthrough of it. Or like they were trying to get good in it, which I don't think they were successful at. But because anyone who's left is like super good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like each of these games, they almost just as a matter of like, so they don't embarrass themselves, they have to come up with something that's different about them.
Yeah,
like I think just to go home at night, like
right,
just so they don't feel like they're like just ripping off something. And what's unique about this one is it's you have a squad of 3.
Right.
It's not there's no, I don't think there even is a single player mode. And that's a cool thing. That might make me a little bit more interested in doing a battle royale, is like going with two pals.
So I have played it.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at shooters, and I've played Fortnite like 3 times.
Okay.
I didn't do well. I mean, I personally didn't like it very much because, like I said, I don't really like shooters. Or battle royales. And I really, honestly, I felt like when I was running into people, I just knew I was going to die at that point because I'm not going to beat him in a firefight.
Yeah.
But it was kind of...
Was that attitude just a way to make yourself not be upset when you lost? Just by this fatalist attitude?
No, I tried.
Yeah?
Don't say I didn't try. Okay. I definitely tried. I just got wrecked. So I'll own up to that.
Okay.
But like, it was kind of exciting, like running around and like, when I was playing it, I was like hiding from people because I didn't want to get killed. But that was kind of exciting. I played it with my brother and Ava. And like, I don't know. My brother actually plays shooters, and he knew what he was doing. But he was kind of carrying me and Ava along with him, which was kind of funny. But like, I mean, I had a good time with it, but I don't think I would play it a bunch because it's just not my kind of game. But I've just heard a lot of people feel like the twist on the battle royale genre is enough where like they really enjoy the game a bunch.
There's a cool, funny tweet from Anthony Birch, who wrote, shout out to Apex Legends for having a straight up fantastic gender ratio for playable characters. 2 women, 2 men, a robot, and a non-binary person. And then someone replied, so 2 non-binary. And then another person replied, just 1. The robot also functions on binary. Which was pretty great.
Jeez.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
That's still too few robots for me, but it's all
right. God Eater 3 came out, which is...
What is that?
Basically Monster Hunter.
Okay.
But like, I think it's Capcom. No, not Capcom. That's Monster Hunter. It's Namco Bandai or something? I don't know. Somebody else makes it.
So yeah, Monster Hunter is a force. It's a huge franchise.
Right.
Are there a lot of copycats?
There are more of them now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's...
That's maybe not a generous way to describe this game I've never heard of, but...
It's basically that, though.
Yeah.
It's very much Monster Hunter, but like other developers made it. So like there's different twists to them and stuff.
That's a really great... But other developers made it. I'm going to start using that.
Speaking of games like that, Wargroove is out, which is Advanced Wars, but like the spiritual successor to it, I guess.
Joining the list of spiritual successors.
Yes.
I liked Advanced Wars, but the because the art was so cool, and I like tactical like games anyway, like turn-based tactical games. But the first couple missions were like, oh great, this is really fun, and then the difficulty ramped up so quickly that I couldn't beat it. So maybe I'll look into this Wargroove game.
Advance Wars is interesting because it was named that because it was on the Game Boy Advance, right? Yeah. Which is a very Nintendo thing to do.
Yes, it is.
And then that might also be why it never had follow-ups, weirdly, even though Nintendo is not against having references to its previous consoles in the names of the games it's on putting on current consoles, as we'll see later in this list. But they did do a spiritual successor, codenamed Steam. You remember that a couple years ago? It was a 3DS game. It was panned critically.
Really?
And I think that kind of just put everyone was like, oh, it's like finally an Advance Wars follow-up. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't do well, and I think Nintendo was like, all right, we'll just let that sit and let other people take it as a genre. Sort of interesting.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that it was an Advance Wars game.
Well, I mean, it's not in the franchise. It's just it was Nintendo making another game like that.
Right.
And so it was very... I think even in interviews, the developers were saying, yeah, we've taken the DNA from that or whatever.
Sure. That makes sense.
But people just didn't like that game.
Resident Evil 2 came out recently.
Did you play the original?
Nope.
Martha? Yeah, me neither. It's a horror game, so that all three of us.
Yeah, one day we'll do a special on horror episodes.
Don't say that.
And then it'll just be nothing. We won't talk about it.
No, we should have Katie on or someone who is really into horror games.
Yeah. We can. Katie can just be a guest of Evil Games Club.
Yes.
We don't have to be involved.
We don't have to talk about it. Yes. Okay, Evil Games will do it for us.
Spoiler though, Dylan hates horror too. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, I don't care. Right. I just don't want to be there.
Right. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy came out on the Switch.
What's that?
It's a game that was on the PS2, and I played it a bunch. I don't think I beat it because it's like a weird. It's kind of like an empty world thing. But I liked it a lot, and I think I have nostalgia for it, so I'm going to purchase it, even though I guess I didn't beat it. Maybe I'll beat it this time.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was cool that it came out again.
Yeah,
that's all. New Super Mario Bros. U came out on Switch very recently.
New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is the name, which is that's an old Game Boy Advance naming convention as well. It's called something Deluxe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really funny that they just didn't call it something else. But because it was a Wii U launch title, I stood in line for it in 2012. Because I got a Wii U at launch.
Oh yeah,
and I loved it. I love that game, and it was the first Mario launch title since Mario 64. Interestingly, but nobody treated it that way because it's a 2D Mario.
Right.
For some reason, those don't count anymore, I guess. I'm salty about it because I love that game, but a lot of people didn't, and nobody bought a Wii U. So, but it also had the expansion, New Super Luigi U, which might be the best Mario game ever made.
Is that just because it has Luigi in it?
I mean, that's part of why.
That certainly helps.
But no, it's a distillation of a 2D Mario format. So all the Luigi levels are really, really short. And as soon as the level starts, you get it's 100 seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because there is the theme song for each thing, and if you get a time, a clock time thing that adds 10 seconds to your thing, it'll go back to the normal speed. But as soon as you start the level, it does the fast version, which is really clever.
Yeah.
And so you're time crunched, which is not something I'm usually into in games. But you have to figure out this level very quickly, navigate it, beat it. Then you play it again to get the 3 big stars, and the star coins or whatever.
Yeah.
And it becomes a puzzle game in a way that the best Mario levels are. You have to sort of figure it out. But it adds that precision level because the platforming itself is not super, super hard.
Sure.
But every second counts.
Right.
So it's a precision platform by another metric. And it's amazing. And it makes... Mario isn't conducive to making it into a Mega Man, right? But they found a way to make it work where it becomes really, really a game where you do have to get good. But it doesn't. But it still plays exactly like Mario, although you skid a little and jump a little higher because you're Luigi,
right?
As you should.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason alone, this is a purchase on Switch.
Okay.
And the only reason I haven't played it yet is I haven't had a single time for any video games. If I had a time in the last couple of weeks. If I had time for any video games, I'd be buying this again. So by the time you hear this, I may have picked up my copy.
He's probably beat it right now.
Yeah, probably.
Cool. Bury Me, My Love. I don't know what that is, but it's out on the Switch.
Okay, so the story is you play a Syrian refugee, Noor, and her husband, Majid. It's a text message adventure game. So she texts you, and you have to choose what you text back.
Oh, okay.
And through your choices, she makes other choices, or sometimes she doesn't listen to you and does the opposite thing instead.
As humans do.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't played it, but I have been meaning to.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think it's on a lot of people's get around to it lists because it's so critically acclaimed and because narratively it's timely and it
seems really sad though. I'm really scared.
I haven't heard of this game at all.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just literally have not heard of it.
Well, it's not a fighting game, so.
Well, that's true. But I'm always interested in how people approach games narratively. So
yeah, I think actually you would, having not played it myself, it seems like in the research I know you like to do when you play certain games, I think this could fit in that real nicely for you. I think you like it for that reason.
Yeah.
Even though I know you're not super into adventure games.
It's true.
But yeah, I think I've been meaning to play it too, and it's on Switch now, Switch makes everything easier to play.
It's true.
So
apparently in the mobile version, she would text you in real time. So it would be you'd get a text from her, and it would be like, "Oh no, this thing is happening right now," quote unquote.
Oh, okay. So and that was I'm sort of now vaguely remembering that was a lot of the early buzz. It was mechanically interesting in that way. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So maybe the mobile version is still the one to get.
It might be. So check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
What's nice about these little games that get a lot of they get a lot of buzz is that they're more likely to come to consoles now than they used to be.
Yeah.
Because with all the cross-platform tools and how publishing on consoles is a lot easier than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. And so these things that get a little audience can now actually have a life and maybe even commercial success.
Yeah.
That just didn't used to be true. And that's fantastic.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I heard of it now, I might buy it on my phone.
Yeah.
Even though so it can help sales on previous platforms that you've released it on.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I'm going to get Sphinx the Cursed Mummy on PS2 again.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah. Walking Dead the final season, episode 3 came out recently.
Yeah, and I guess the 4th will come out soon or whatever. But that's news because that was not going to happen.
Right, and now it is, which is good.
Sort of.
But also sad. Yeah. Pick a Picks Pieces. Martha, you said you played this a lot?
Yeah, I've been playing this obsessively for the past month. It came out early January, and it's a Picross game, and you have to pick squares based on probability, or it's like Minesweeper, so it tells you how many you guys have played Picross games, right?
I love Picross.
Okay.
And that's describing Minesweeper is actually a pretty good way if someone knows nothing about it. That's a great example.
Yeah. So basically there's there's 4 blue ones in this row and 5 red ones in this row, and you have to figure out which one is which. Mm-hmm. And this particular one makes pictures with different colors in them, and you get to it's broken up into different squares. So once you fill in all the squares, it will show this one big picture. And what I really like about it is, 1, that you can just play it casually while you're watching something, and 2, that has the best soundtrack ever. And I get it stuck in my head, and it's just so happy, and it makes me feel good. So
cool.
Highly recommend. It's just a Picross game, but it's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm. Martha, whichever one of us edits this episode is going to have to throw that in a little bit.
Or
you can just hum along. That's great too. Nice.
That was off key. I need to warm up before I sing.
Yeah. Yes. Bunch of big games are coming out at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Right? Or some will be already out.
Yeah, at this
maybe.
point. Crackdown 3 is coming out, which I'm hyped for, and I didn't know it was coming out because I liked the first one sort of, and the second one sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically you're a cop, but you also blow things up, I guess, which is probably not narratively good, but it's still fun. So I like the games.
Right.
Yes.
The first one is free on Xbox.
I believe it is.
Then for a little while it's a promotion.
Yes.
I don't know. It was on the original Xbox or Xbox 360?
It was on the 360.
Okay. It's not that old a franchise.
It might be on Xbox. I don't remember now when I was playing it. But yeah, this new one has Terry Crews in it. So I'm doubly interested.
That's kind of the only reason I'm interested. Because I've seen the commercials he's done. This game has been delayed. It was announced as a launch title for the Xbox One.
Right.
Maybe not as a launch title, launch window or something, and then just got pushed and pushed and pushed. And Terry Crews has been attached to it for so long and has done commercials that have been part of E3 and little promo clips that have been airing. So it's not even part of the normal games. So we've just been hearing about this game forever.
Yeah.
And I'm just I'll be yelled at by Terry Crews for 20 hours.
For real.
I'm into that.
Yes, please.
But
sounds good to me.
Originally, the game was it was meant to show off a lot of the cloud processing technology Microsoft wanted to put in a lot of Xbox One games. Like Microsoft has a huge server backend. The Azure platform is like hugely successful and pretty good. And they wanted to say, well, let's put a bunch of games on it, and then they can do actual like gameplay world processing. And then the Xbox One itself, relatively powerful, can be a thin client. And it would be amazing. And the truth is, it's really hard to make a game like that.
Yeah.
Like to actually have that setup, even for a first-party studio. And so I think they pulled a lot of that out and for the final game. And just made it just a regular sequel. But that was going to be the destructibility, all the physics and stuff was going to be like cloud processed.
Right.
But I don't think any of that is in the game final.
Well, I guess we'll find out when the game comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe you can also play this on PC because I don't have an Xbox One. So. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that because I got a beast of a PC now.
Yeah, I think all Microsoft's committed to make all their first-party titles PC also, I think. Yeah.
Which is real sweet.
Mm-hmm. And is it Microsoft Game Studios that makes it? Or
I believe so.
It's not some other
I believe
studio?
It is the Game Studios. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they also changed their name. That's news. They changed their name from Microsoft Game Studios to Xbox Game Studios.
Cool.
I think they wanted to make it clear that like we make Xbox games.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though they make PC games, but those are all like Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Microsoft's expanding the definition of what Xbox Live means, and that's also news, but that's sort of a little, I don't know, it's mildly interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Anthem is coming out, which is the, what is that?
BioWare's answer to Destiny.
Yes. It's in third person, so I'm more interested as a result, but otherwise...
Martha, you got to play that and tell us, because you play Destiny.
It's true. Yeah, wasn't there was a demo of it, but I missed it.
Right, I heard it didn't go great because there's a lot of
bugs.
Yeah, a lot of bugs.
Sounds about right.
It is. I think there's a Game Informer article that we'll link talking about like all the different things that are gonna change from the demo to the full release. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to read what we were talking about because it was very conversational. Like, well, we didn't have this bug in, or like we didn't have this bug fix in because like the developers came to me and said they had fixed it, but it was way too like close to the demo, so we didn't want to like put this in. And it's like, that sounds about right.
No, that's clever. Yeah, I definitely know like trying to fix game bugs like before a demo thing can cause way more bugs. So that's probably for the best.
99 bugs in the code, 99 bugs in the code. Take one down, patch it around, 117 bugs in the
code. I'm kind of just I really thought I would get into Anthem as getting closer to release. Yeah. But like I've learned nothing about its world. All I know is that there are 4 different kinds of mechs, and
there are mechs?
That's the whole. It's the whole concept. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything about it clearly.
And that's it. That's all I learned in the last year about this game because and I was like, but I was really hoping for like another Mass Effect, and they promised like it's BioWare. It's going to be a big sprawling universe, and maybe that's true, but I've gotten no actual hint of it.
That's true. Yeah.
And because I'm not super interested in a live game like Destiny, but I will play one if it has other things I like, and then maybe that will come to anyway. I'm just like, it just hasn't caught me.
Yeah, they haven't even brought up narrative stuff. So I don't know.
Well, the truth is, I think a lot of the players who, a lot of times these types of games mold around the community that forms. Yeah. And so it's probably best for the game to just become Destiny. And what Destiny did was like Destiny became more gameplay focused, less narrative focused, and there's been a push and pull. Yeah. But like, I think that's probably best for the success of the game, but not for the success of me playing this game. Yeah. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Well, I'll check it out. Yes. And I'll report back in the next bulletin.
Sounds good.
Martha on the street. Far Cry New Dawn will also be coming out soon. Mm-hmm. It's I guess a direct sequel to the 5th one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a full-on game or if it's more spin-offy. I don't know. Yeah. Because there was like the Blood Dragon was another one of these.
And
that was
Far Cry Primal was another one. That's
that was sold as a full. I don't think they may not have charged full price for that, but it was sold as its own little property.
Oh, I didn't know
that. So I don't really know. Yeah. But it is a direct sequel, like spin-offs in this series tend to be.
Yeah. And you can customize your character apparently, which is a new thing.
Right. I guess normally that your protagonist usually is directly part of the story.
Hello, protagonist.
But in this one, you're like the survivor of a train crash, so you could be, and it lets you decide who you are, and then the story is this. So it's not a unique backstory. Yeah, which is kind of an interesting way to do it. But the reason that I wanted to put this on the list, and I'm not that interested in this game. I don't like a lot of Ubisoft games that are on Assassin's Creed, and I barely like those these days. Is because it's an interesting narrative arc for this little world they built. Far Cry 5 sort of tried, and I think the reviews were kind but fair in their assessment of how well it did this. But it was meant to address white supremacy and racism and the sort of this insular cult kind of cultures that can form.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the game was like they sort of tipped to it, but it wasn't great. But I don't know, AAA game. But spoilers, if you want to skip ahead a couple seconds for anyone who doesn't want to hear the end of this game. But at the end of the game, there's like nukes go off and destroy the world. And so, which is kind of a nice surprise for a game that's set contemporaneously, and you don't expect that the way you would from another, like a Fallout or something.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's one of the enemies of the game. And so this is a sequel that's a follow up to that, like 20 years later or something. And the enemies, the villains in this game are a direct result of the villains from the previous game. It's a pair of African American women who are just like out there to destroy the remnants of that old. I
don't get how they're the bad guys, though. That sounds like a perfectly fine thing to do.
And see that, and that's exactly the point, right? Is like to say like it's about it that they get their comeuppance, and so the question is like, what does the story then say about that? Like, what direction does it go? Is it going to be be a little wishy-washy, like sometimes that series is, or is it, according to at least what the impressions I got from the trailer, that it's really going to actually take a stand about it? And like a lot of people, a lot of regressive neckbeard Gamergate types got really upset with the announce of it. So you kind of like, well, that's good, right? But who knows? It might not follow through, and it is just going to be a Ubisoft game. So like, how
nuanced?
Don't put a lot of faith in it, I guess. But it's kind of cool. It's cool that Ubisoft might be the only big AAA publisher, and they've done this with other games in their series too. Other series, they actually are willing to actually use this form as narrative art.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to give them too much credit, but like way more than Activision or EA ever does with these things.
They're making an effort.
Like the other big publishers will like bend over backwards to tell you like, oh, I know that there's like an evil government in this, but like we're not saying anything political.
Right.
Please, everyone buy our game.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft is not that far off from it, but much further than you'd ever than they really would have to sell as many copies of games as they do. So like, you give them some credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I look forward to reading a lot of articles about this game.
Yeah,
because I will not be playing.
Ultimately, that's me too. I'm curious about like
you'll want to see what the takes
games
are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And they form gaming culture, and I think it's important that it isn't just because the more like just bland Call of Duties we get, the more acceptable it is for someone who's into games to say that, oh, we don't say anything in this medium. And so when something does say something, it's really easy to say, well, wait, we don't say things in this medium.
Yeah.
And I think that the more games we have that say something even a little bit, it can change the impression of the whole industry and the people who play these games.
Yep.
And then they can decide, like, just like with movies, like, this movie says something, it's not for me, or maybe I liked the movie but don't like what it said, but I can still like the movie. I think that if gamers can have a more mature relationship with the medium, if we just have a couple of these examples. It doesn't have to be everything, right? But a little bit of it, I think, can go a long way.
Yeah, as the medium ages, this is just the natural order of things.
Yep.
Also, Metro Exodus is coming out. That is the last thing on the list.
And that's our first news item, so we can get right into it.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So Metro Exodus came out. I guess it isn't out now, but it will be out soon.
15th?
You could pre-order it, though, which is where the controversy is happening.
You could pre-order it on Steam, but then Metro Exodus is now only exclusively being sold on the Epic Store?
On PC.
On PC, yes. I guess you can get it on consoles, but you already made your bet at that point.
I do like the idea of exclusivity on PC is really funny because, like, Steam, none of these stores, no one has ever demanded that these games not be on console, as if it's like a totally different universe.
Right.
I always find that sort of interesting.
Yeah.
But also, a lot of console exclusive games are also on PC, and the console makers are like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, I just find that weird.
It is really weird.
Anyway.
It's very strange. But yeah, there was a lot of backlash about it because, people pre-ordered it on Steam and then they found out that, like, I guess like other people pre-ordered it on. I'm not exactly sure on the details because from how I understand it, if you pre-ordered it on Steam, you can still play it on Steam.
Yeah, I know the details of this. Okay. So the game had a pretty lengthy pre-order period, like any AAA game. Also, it's been delayed a couple of times, so that might have been, delayed like a normal amount, not like a huge amount.
Sure.
But what happened was when they announced the exclusivity, they sent an email to everybody and said your pre-order will still be honored. You can still buy DLC from your copy, so it will be still available. It won't affect you, but other people who want to buy the game starting now have to go to Epic's Game Store. Now, truthfully, I'm sure Epic, when they went to the developer, said, "Hey, can you just cancel all those pre-orders, or like give them maybe a discount on our store that will maybe help fund or whatever?"
Yeah.
And I think it is to their credit. They're just like, listen, we already have a bunch of pre-orders. Let's make this as smooth as possible. But ironically, that state of affairs is what got people upset because it felt sort of weird and cagey.
Yeah.
Like that you can, if you already bought the game, you could still get it, but nobody else can have it. And so it's very plainly not a technical issue, right? Very plainly, it's not like we're going to be exclusive with them because like they're helping us out with like, development and getting it all set up and whatever. Right. And that's usually the excuse people use for exclusivity.
Yeah.
It's usually more true in the console space when there actually are real proper technical difficulties or differences. Right. But but it was very obvious that this was just purely a decision where Epic was like, here's some money. Here's some money. Yeah. Like, can you just sell on our store to help our store? And because it's going to mean less sales for them.
Yeah.
It's just going to, right? Yeah. And so it would make sense. And so it all seems fine. Like, as much as we might decry the sort of the changing hands of it, like who's getting hurt in that scenario?
Yeah.
But because they allowed those pre-orders to keep going, it feels weird and icky almost. Even it almost feels worse, even though it is better. And I think a lot of people on the internet were very complaining about Epic. And the problem I have with this, and I want to hear what you guys think, is Steam threw a hissy fit. Or Valve they're just like, this is terrible. It's unfair to our customers, which is like who? The people who pre-ordered it and will get a copy, or the people who can't buy it anymore. Like anyone has the choice not to sell on your platform. Like, and then what they did was if you go to I think it's still there. Yes. If you go to the Metro Exodus page on Steam, because it still has a Steam page, because there are pre-orders that are still, so if you own it, whatever. Valve put an editorial comment on that developer's page, which says like, this sucks. It's unfair. We don't think it's right. They promised it, but you never know. Like, and I just feel like, man, Valve is the worst. I'm so mad at them about that. And I think that's gotten very little coverage, that element. I think the people know that it was reported that it was there, but people are not mad enough that Valve can just put on your store page like its own editorial thoughts on your business behavior.
Yeah.
Like that's offensive. I'm very upset about it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because like that's so unprofessional of them.
Absolutely.
Like that they're wow.
Right. And it doesn't even matter if they're right or not. Like
right, yeah. Like they should if they're gonna say everyone gets to sell in our store, they can't go around being like, well, these people suck. Right. And if they want to be comfortable with the gaming audience letting them be a near monopoly, which is what they want, right? Like that's they're now facing pressure from other stores. And if they want to maintain their position, they can't go and abuse it like that. It's insane.
Yeah. Yep. itch.io. Shoot, maybe Epic Store. I don't know. Something else.
Yeah. So like a lot of this is very much the Coke versus Pepsi, PlayStation versus Xbox arguments on the internet. Yeah. But there's no good guys here. And Epic, I don't know if I would call them a bad guy, but like they could have picked a different title, right?
Yeah. They could have picked one that didn't already have a bunch of
right, just to sort of not ruffle anybody's feathers if they're trying to. And a lot of their press, like they did this thing with was it Improbable, this backend service that used Unity. Maybe we can talk about this in a future episode, but like Epic they're not the good guys either. Like, they are they're pulling every lever they can to get the advantage. It's a knife fight, and I don't like. There's no use in picking sides because it's businessy and like I don't know. It's weird.
Itch.io.
Yeah. But it's the thing. If you're a developer and that offer is made to you, like take.
Oh yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
I mean, but I'm sure there were meetings where Epic was like, "Here's the projections on the sales that you will get," because even if I come out like ahead on dollars, if my audience is reduced, which that could affect the future of the franchise, or even just the press, the negative press of being exclusive somewhere, like that was a hard decision for this company to make to go with Epic's deal. And so I'm sure they made a really good pitch for why it was worth it. But like, if you get that pitch and you think that's best for your franchise, you are not the bad guy.
No,
do you know what I mean? Like this developer is not the bad guy. Epic, maybe a little bit. Valve, absolutely.
Yep. Speaking of the Epic Store, Axiom Verge crashed on the Epic Store when it came out.
This is hilarious.
Very recently, because the developer, Axiom Verge is famous for like there being only one developer who did all of the things on it. And that developer removed all of the things that said Steam on it when they put it to the Epic Store. And one of the sound files was named Steam. So it crashed as soon as you started it up. Because of that.
That's hilarious.
And then the developer was like, oh, oops.
And there was also the developer even just said like, oh yeah, because everyone's making fun like, oh, find and replace, how lazy of the dev. Yeah. And the dev was like, yeah, I just went and searched for files named Steam and deleted them. Yeah. Sorry guys.
Yeah.
Like, just very open about it, like, oh yeah. And then patched it. It's fine now.
Right, yeah.
It's a hilarious story, but also like, I think hopefully it taught some gamers about empathy for these hardworking devs.
Right, yeah.
Who like have so many things to deal with.
It's a simple mistake anyways.
And ultimately it was like the game, the like the Steam hooks, the APIs that you code in, those had already been changed in the code.
Yeah.
It was the DLLs that are like the plugins and stuff that were just named Steam that the developer just thought, I probably shouldn't ship these DLLs.
Yeah,
right.
And so it was like
it won't be used anyway, so they're just adding to your gigabytes. Or
right,
whatever.
and they didn't want to distribute Valve software on another store. Like it just was like they could have. Like there was nothing there. They weren't getting in trouble for it.
Yeah.
But they were just like, I better like cross the T's on this and just make sure. Yeah. And it ended up being a problem, like it made a little problem.
Yeah.
And so hopefully people are not being too cruel to this developer.
Yeah. It's a simple mistake.
We're all gonna make these mistakes.
Oh yeah, I have.
Oh.
We'll talk about that in an episode.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yep. In other news, Activision Blizzard layoffs are possibly imminent, probably imminent. I don't know exactly where this news story was like originally released, but I read it off of Kotaku. And it seems like for maybe a couple of months now, a lot of employees have been talking about layoffs coming up very soon.
Yeah.
Because specifically layoffs to non-developers like marketing teams and such like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess maybe Activision wants more influence in Blizzard stuffs.
Right. These are going to be at least the report. The very little of the report I read was that Blizzard staff in sales, marketing, where there are what you could maybe say are redundancies.
Yeah.
Because Blizzard has run itself as its own company for a long time. But I think Activision, when they report profits, they roll it all together. Like I think there might be some disagreement between the two sides as to what the company is.
Yeah.
It's called Activision Blizzard, but like most people don't know that.
Right. Yeah, I always forget.
Right. Because when Activision bought them, it was such a big purchase and it represented a huge, even though they had like at that time, like a game, like World of Warcraft, right? At that time. And so the name of the company is Activision Blizzard because that's how important that acquisition was.
Right.
But they maintain separate brands. And I think Activision has finally said, like, it's been a decade, we're going to roll them in finally. And I think, and a lot of people can lose their jobs. And I don't think they expected it this, which is a bummer.
It really sucks.
This is why big acquisitions like that should be able to happen. But that's me on my soapbox.
AAA games in general scare me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like there's a consolidation amongst like phone carriers, amongst movie studios, industries that have just a few players.
Yeah.
And there's like demonstrated like harm to the markets when that happens. There's less competition. There's more pressure on workers. There's less relief for consumers and less option and less innovation. It's all terrible. I wonder how true that is for big video game publishers, because I'm trying to think, like, we don't have many left, just like we don't have many of anything left. But, like, is it reaching that tipping point or not? I'd be curious to see a report, like, actually just to count, like, how many of these size there even are left. Like, maybe half a dozen or fewer? And how many were there 20 years ago? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, think about like, a company like Acclaim Or like THQ went out a couple years ago, but like they weren't even that big at the time. Mm-hmm. So really, like even going back to the 90s, it was Activision and EA. And I don't know that it's that much worse now, but it certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know.
So we'll do some research, maybe.
That sounds like homework, Mark. Nintendo reported recently that they have a very high number of women designers. Mm-hmm. They did not specify what high number means. It could mean 2%, and like everybody else has 1%, which is bad.
Yeah,
but like better, I guess.
It wasn't like a report they released. It was part of an interview or something where they were asked about it. I believe.
Okay,
and so it's not like they just went out and made a vague statement. And went back into their hidey hole.
Yeah,
although that is totally Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good, though. It's just a good thing.
Yeah, and it's good that they want to tout that.
Right, they're proud of that.
Yeah, and how true it is another matter. Right. But like the fact that that's something that they care about, or at least seem to care about.
Yeah, I mean, Pikachu was originally designed by a woman. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know in those quotes, I think they gave a couple of examples, but like the lead designer on Animal Crossing is a woman. Mm-hmm. I think it was the only high profile one they could name.
Yeah.
Which is that's still a lot more than most companies' portfolios, but I don't know if that's good enough. Right.
Still more work to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's actually kind of interesting is there'll probably be pressure on Nintendo now to release numbers.
Yes, because they said something.
And it's like, great, they stepped in it. Good, good.
Yeah, I want to see those numbers.
And I hope they don't, Nintendo doesn't like to open the curtain for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
I think this feels like something, I hope there's an internal conversation, say like, this is one where we maybe we should take the torch on this.
Sure.
I hope so. I hope it's not just a passing thing in an interview and we never hear about it again.
Give me those deets, Nintendo.
Yeah.
The people want to know.
Yeah.
Amazon's New World is announced. I hadn't heard about this.
What is that?
You brought it up to me.
So yeah, I shouldn't linger too long about it because I've read just one article about this. It's on Polygon. It's a. I'm sure there's other impressions, but it was just an early impression of this. It's a sort of persistent world kind of game where you play as a 17th century settler. And the new world of the title is just this sort of unnamed Caribbean island.
Oh.
And you land there and you make a home and you settle.
Yeah.
And then the idea is the game officially, there are no native population for you to displace, but there's too many trappings of colonization. And the article that I read really got into that and how troubling and problematic that is.
Yeah.
And I won't really even get into the details. We'll put the link in the show notes. You should read it for yourself because I basically this is just a recommended for this article. It's really interesting and fascinating. And another one of those things that we've talked about on the show before, which is you may not have intended a certain thing, but every choice you make is meaningful.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you don't think about those consequences, well, too bad, you've made them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really good example of that happening. And I'm curious to see what happens with this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Netflix just came out with the show Russian Doll.
Yeah.
The main character is a game developer.
Yeah.
Which is neat.
You guys have not seen this show?
No, but now I really, really want to because it's got Natasha Lyonne.
Yes.
From Orange is the New Black fame. And she's the main character. And it's basically Groundhog's Day, but updated and cool.
Yeah.
Where she ends up dying over and over again.
Groundhog Day is cool.
What?
Groundhog Day is cool.
It is cool.
It's just updated and cool.
I see.
It's hip with the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
No, this is a really, really fantastic show. I binged it in a day and a half, and it's definitely designed for that. Like it's a lot of those shows that you binge that are, and Netflix, of course, they make these shows. They know how people watch these things.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, oh, come on, Netflix, I'm watching the next episode. Don't give me the recap. Don't whatever. This series, but this series is also not like the 10-hour movie, which is I think that description is coming under fire. The episodes still are distinct, but it knows you're watching them back to back. So it's really it's a great example of like creation to the form. That's sort of beside the point. But the main character, this is not a spoiler, but the main character dies very early on in the first episode, then wakes up like earlier in the night, and just over and over every time she dies. And she just can't help it. She will eventually die within a day or two, in a way that is seems very artificial. Like it doesn't seem natural. Like, but it's not like a magical force killed her. It's that she just gets in these weird accidents. And so as the series goes on, she says like, why is this happening? Like, as she even comes to terms with like, I'm just going to die soon, but like, I don't know why. And then, and she's trying to solve why this is happening. Mm-hmm. And so there's a fun little sort of sci-fi plot to it, but it's more, I would describe it more as like magical realism in that she's trying to find out the rules of this thing. But what's great is because she is a game developer, she uses a little bit of that type of logic of like fixing a bug.
Cool.
And there's a great, I don't want to spoil a lot, but at the near the end of it, she really like puts that metaphor to it. And that ends up being like a big breakthrough for how the thing works out. But the best thing about the show is that it's kind of dreamlike, and the rules make enough sense for you to like follow it, but they break it in really distinct ways, and there's like loose threads that don't get followed up on. But it's so well crafted, and you don't it doesn't ever say that it's like it all hangs together. It's an amazing kind of storytelling, and I've described it as for Netflix series about game design. That stars a game designer. Yeah. This thing is 10 times smarter than Bandersnatch and 1,000 times more interactive. Hey. In the sense that with Bandersnatch, if you've played that, it's actually a choose your own adventure game on Netflix. Mm-hmm. I've been very critical of that. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show, but like I think it's kind of garbage. But this is much more interactive in the sense that like it really you do a lot more thinking and processing and like and interpretation, whereas Bandersnatch is really just what you see is what you get. It's like it thinks it's so clever, but it's not. Mm-hmm. But this is and having come out so soon after that, it's a great compare those two. If you watch a lot of Netflix content, I love it so much, and so it's a hearty recommend.
Yeah, I will have to check it out for sure. Mm-hmm. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yes, wobbling and Smash Melee banned in some tournaments. I know what wobbling is, but I don't know what.
See, I read this article and I was like, Steve's gonna be all over this.
No, I don't. I didn't read the article. I don't know what this. Did you read the article?
I read the article.
Well, you can talk about it.
So there's some tournaments in Tennessee that made a ruling on this. So Melee is a game that's not changing. Yeah, right? There's no patches available.
It's a GameCube game.
So in order for the game to survive and continue playing, like the meta does update.
Yes.
People find new strategies, even all these years later.
Yeah.
And I don't know how old wobbling is. You can maybe describe it.
Wobbling is quite old. When I first started playing Melee and like tried to actually get good at it, I played the Ice Climbers a lot, and I learned what wobbling was at that point.
What is wobbling?
10 years ago. Right. Wobbling is Ice Climbers specifically. Ice Climbers are two characters. You play as two characters, and both of them can grab their opponent. So basically, wobbling is just grabbing your opponent over and over and over again so they can't escape. And then you get them to a super high percent, and then you kill them right away. That's what it is.
Okay.
It locks you in a grab.
Yeah.
And it's apparently it's hard to do, but once you've got them, it's very easy to hold on to the infinite combo.
Yep.
I saw a clip in this article that I read about it. There was posted a clip of somebody doing it while solving a Rubik's Cube, just to show how easy it is. Once you've got it.
Yeah.
But anyway, apparently it's been legal because only one character can do it. It's not super easy to do. Yeah. But the heart of it, and maybe Steven, you can speak to this, is in terms of a technique, it does not ruin the game. It doesn't make Ice Climbers too powerful, but it's boring. Mm-hmm. And that's the concern, is that Melee, in order to survive going forward, now that Ultimate is out and eating its lunch, finally, in order to survive as a going concern in tournaments, even as a sideshow, it needs to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
And so the concern a lot of people have is like, well, we have to ban this technique because it makes it kind of ruins matches. It makes the opponent kind of sigh, and it's like it feels like bad sportsmanship, and like it's boring, and so I don't know. And there's debate about this. So a bunch of these tournaments in Tennessee, there's like a little consortium of different cities that run tournaments. They have like a little council. They have robes, I'm sure. They voted in favor of banning it, but the representatives who voted not to ban it were allowed to keep doing it, even though they have they're all supposed to share rules, because it's so fraught and controversial apparently. Yeah. And I found this whole thing hilarious. But Steven, why don't you want to talk to this idea of like a fighting game, like the mechanical balance versus like how good is a spectator sport?
Well, I mean, I think that like in a lot of fighting games, people will ban things if that like option is so unbalanced that like it warps the meta to the point where like that is the only option you can pick. Yeah. That's not the case here because Ice Climbers are still not OP because of that. Yeah. You can play, and in fact, Genesis 6 just released, which is a huge fighting game thing, and
the tournament.
Yes, sorry. And I actually watched the Melee ones, the singles, and there were no ice climbers. It was a pretty diverse cast. There was like 7 different characters.
Yeah. I think even when they were releasing the results of this vote, that the Tennessee, I don't know, whoever the grand champion leader guy or whatever,
the Grand Nagus,
something was saying like, we don't really have a lot of ice climbers players here in Tennessee, but we still wanted to vote on. It was like, all right,
okay. It's funny because there actually are a lot of debates on specifically in Smash. I read a lot of the Smash Ultimate things, and people talk about how like boring certain characters are. Like in Smash 4, Bayonetta was all over the place because like she could combo people up until they killed her right away or killed people right away, and people hated that kind of gameplay because it was boring to watch.
Yeah.
But like it won tournaments a lot of the time. So people wanted to keep doing that. And there were a lot of discussions on banning Bayonetta because people thought that like Bayonetta was too powerful, and a lot of people started playing Bayonetta.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, at least in the Smash 4 meta, I don't think she ended up being too great. That it like was an actual problem. But just people keep talking about that. And like with the evolution of streams being so important to like the longevity of fighting games, it's important that like the game is very flashy, so people like get hype whenever something cool happens.
Yeah.
And Melee it's a really old game now, and it just isn't as hype as it used to be.
Sure.
And I think like the audiences have changed to the point where like they want exciting, fast movement and flashy attacks, and not like people getting grabbed for 30 seconds and then getting kicked.
So what do you think about it? I mean, you don't like Melee that much. You don't watch it a ton.
I don't like the ban personally because I feel like the game, it should just be about the competition. And I kind of don't like that. Like we're progressing to a point where like streaming is how flashy something is more important than like the actual gameplay that is happening.
Yeah.
Because like,
isn't it just like a community patch ultimately though?
It is kind of yeah. I mean, it's effectively a community patch, but like the patch isn't, at least the way you're describing it, the patch doesn't seem like it's in service of making the game better. It's making it more entertaining to watch.
Okay.
Which I do not like.
Right.
I think that you should patch it to make the game
Steven
better.
does not like things that are entertaining to watch.
Yes, exactly. Boring, please. Give me more golf and soccer. No, really, don't though.
Golf can be actually surprisingly fascinating.
Yeah.
Disagree.
Well, sorry, this is off topic, but there was this one time because my dad watches a lot of golf at like family gatherings and stuff, and so I was watching some with him, and there was like this moment where this one guy was trying to hit it into the hole like you usually are, but he's like he accidentally had hit it like way into this like patch of trees, and he had one shot to get it into the thing to beat the other guy, and he totally got it. It was so great and so much tension.
That's so rare for golf.
I know. I caught it just the right time.
And the fact that it happened one time makes it all that much more special. So maybe that's when people watch golf. They're like, I know I have to sit through years of boring nonsense of like old dudes in khakis just for that one moment, that mythical moment that might come. And you just got to waltz in and see it.
Yeah.
So you think golf is just that interesting.
That's pretty great. Ad Hoc, the new studio?
Yeah, apparently there's a new studio called Ad Hoc, which is by a bunch of some former Telltale folks. And they're going to make basically Telltale games, apparently.
Yeah. All right. Hey, that's cool.
Story narrative games. So I'm excited for that. I just want someone to make a sequel to Tales of the Borderlands. That's all I'm asking. Please.
Just Borderlands. That's all. We can make whatever else.
Yeah.
Borderlands. Yeah, cool. And then also the Captain Marvel website came out, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's not really game news, but it's like tech news that's sort of games adjacent, and I really liked it. So,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was just by our calendar just yesterday, the day before, Captain Marvel, this Marvel movie that's coming out, put out its official website.
Yes.
And it's just basically a 90s GIF fest.
Yes.
And because it's 90s, it is correct to say GIF.
Yeah, okay.
Just like
flashing things.
Yeah, and it just looks like it was made in 1995.
It's so great.
And it looks exactly like the websites I made in that time.
Yeah.
It's so genuine.
Yeah.
So it was definitely made by people exactly my age, I think. But like the one of the designers on Twitter said, yeah, we made this in Front Page. Which is an old WYSIWYG web thing that
that's amazing.
A web page builder that I used in that time, and it's amazing. Like, they have like a proper video embed, and like, it's,
and it does scaled in mobile pretty well. So,
right.
But in a way that feels genuine to like resizing a browser in the old days.
Yeah.
Too. So in the fact that they basically don't use any like everything just shrinks when you shrink it. Like it's not.
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. There's also like there's a bunch of secret little Easter eggs on it, which is fun if you dig around. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Check it out. So it's on Twitter. It's just Captain Marvel website, and I'm sure a lot of people have written about it because the nostalgia factor is pretty high.
Yes.
It's got all the fonts, and all the colors.
Yeah, and all the crazy backgrounds, and it's pretty good.
Flashing text.
Yeah. And I mean, for people who aren't following this movie, it's set in the 90s. So like that's the shtick there.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. And then there's like a fake guest book. In the old days, you didn't have comments, you had guest books. And it just has a bunch of comments about like, about, oh, this movie's going to be great. And like, oh, this internet thing is a fad. And like, and then there's a button that says log in. And I'm like, I want to leave a comment. And you click it and it's like, oh, a guest book is full.
Oh,
which is a thing that could happen.
Yes. You did it right there.
Yeah.
That's good. Good job, Marvel. Well, that's it for news. Literally nothing else happened at all.
I feel like as we're talking, there's like all these other things like, oh, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
But like we didn't prepare our very little notes on these things. But like we talked about a lot. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do more of these types of episodes. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know what you think at nicegames.club/feedback.
Mm-hmm. You can send us an email, contact@nicegames.club, and let us know, like, are we spending too much time on some of these things, or should we focus on maybe a few pieces of news and not like a big grab bag? Like, we just kind of tumbled into this format. We like it, sound like. So, yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
All right, that's our show. If you haven't already, subscribe to Nice Games Club in your favorite podcast app, and be sure to give it a good review if you liked it or are nice like us. We need those reviews, folks, so wherever you get your podcasts, tell them we're great. So leave that review and tell all your friends too.
You're great too, audience. You're the best.
Yeah. So
thank you for listening.
If you have anywhere that we can leave a 5-star review, please, in your 5-star review, let us know. Yes. We don't see the 4-star reviews, unfortunately. No, we only see the 5-star ones.
It's a bug in our system.
Yeah. So. We want to hear directly from you, of course. So follow us on Twitter and all the other things at Nice Games Club. And as I said before, you can email us contact@nicegamesclub, or check us out on the feedback forum. That again is
nicegames.club/feedback.
All right. Lastly, you can find out more about the show and Your Nice Host, as well as get all the links and notes from this and other episodes at nicegames.club. And so, until we start again, remember to
play nice
and make nice. It's a game where, is it originally out on mobile? Or
I think it was PC.
Okay.
I might be wrong.
Well, look that up yourselves, folks.
We're not going to do everything for you.